1940s to the 1970s, Australian Sunday schools were booming.
What are the angels doing? They're bringing messages, sending messages down from God.
In the early 60s, 1 in 7 children under 14 went every week to listen to Bible stories, talk about God, and learn Christian values.
We're going to go to Sunday school now.
In Australia, it all started at St John's, Parramatta. Here, Sunday school continues a tradition that began at this Anglican church over 200 years ago. Before the sermon starts, 30 children aged 3 to 12 leave church to join the Sunday school class.
And then when he had finished speaking, he said,
Row the boat out into deep water and let your nets down to catch some fish.
and action! What do? Row, we bob, beep.
But Sunday school actually began in the 18th century, when English newspaperman Robert Raikes founded Sunday School for child workers of the Industrial Revolution.
Well, originally, when Sunday school came into being, it wasn't anything to do with the churches. It was purely secular. It was to give basic literary education to the children that worked in the mills and the factories and the mines, because the only day they had off work was Sunday. They wanted these children to read the Bible, but before they could read the Bible, they had to teach them how to read. So they invented Sunday school.
In 1961, nearly 90% of Australians identified as Christian. Sending children to Sunday school had become standard practice for Protestant families.
I think when I was growing up, many people would send their children to Sunday school because they had a cultural Christianity. They believed that they were Christian. They believed that because their parents were Christian and their parents before that were Christian, and somewhere deep in the family tree there was probably a member of the clergy. So, of course, we send our children to Sunday school.
Jesus, bless the gifts we bring. Jesus, bless the gifts we bring. Give them
But some church leaders at the time were highly critical of Sunday school.
My hackles rise because I think that Sunday schools have done more damage to the Church of God than anything else I can think of.
Bishop Howell Witt, Bishop of North West Australia.
First of all, and most important, of course, is that a Sunday school simply cannot teach children to worship.
Why do you come to Sunday school?
To learn about God.
Why do you come to Sunday school?
Because I like it.
Why do you come to Sunday school?
To learn about God.
Another complaint was that parents regularly dropped their children off at Sunday school but didn't go to church themselves.
Why do they send their children to Sunday school?
I feel that we owe it to them to make their choice. But I think they learn more than if they didn't go.
It takes away from the parents of the child their responsibility in giving their children religious education.
But the world was changing. Between 1963 and 1973, Sunday school numbers almost halved. The sexual revolution had arrived. Less people were going to church, and soon other interests took over.
Well, it was the upsurge in Sunday sport was a great contributor to the decline.
At St John's, Parramatta, the flock has changed, but the message is the same.
Here in Parramatta, you've got people of all manner of different cultures, all manner of different beliefs, and they've come from every corner of the globe.
Hello? How are you guys?
We're good.
What are you guys learning about today? When I was at Sunday school, the things that were taught
Bartimaeus.
are exactly the same things that are taught in Sunday school now.
What happened to the blind man?
The fundamental message of the Christian faith is always the same.
He could see again.
We want the children to have an understanding of the Bible so that as they grow up, that becomes the foundation for their living, not just a piece of understanding, but something which guides their living, something which gives them wisdom in life.
Sophie, you tell me.
God fixed him.
God fixed him.
Super Saviour to the rescue. I like Sunday school because I like learning about the Bible.
I like about Sunday school the stories because I really like the stories like Esther.
To learn about Jesus because adult church is boring.
Super Saviour. Super Saviour. We're going to put our hands together and we're going to close our eyes and we're just going to say another prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you that we could come here.
Today, just 8% of Australians attend church regularly, and it's an ageing congregation.
The church is only ever one generation from extinction. So the next generation is always important.
Is your mum there?
I think the challenge is actually to reach out to the children who are not in the Sunday school, to see the children in the street and say, would you like to hear some Bible stories, in effect? That's always a challenge.
Ron's church on the Central Coast is trying out new ways to get children involved.
Then we've got the Samson cupcake.
And adults are welcome too.
Well, Message Church is a new type of Sunday school in a way. People who don't necessarily want to come to your regular church will feel more comfortable coming to what they call Message Church because it's very informal. Tables are set up with all sorts of things, crafts on them, but we introduce a Christian theme into that table.
Picture pulling this whole church down with the bare hands. It's more fun. I reckon more 21st century type church. Whereas with the old church, you just sit in the church, and that's how I'm taking. That's my view of it. I come here because my daughter loves coming here, and I have never been to a church before. And as we're driving down the road, she saw the sign and she said, "Mummy, Messy Church," and I read the sign and I went, "Okay, I'll take you." And now we just love coming here because of the people. They're all beautiful, and she enjoys the craft, and it's education. So I'm not a religious person, so learning about the stories is really fascinating to me.
Did you like Messy Church?
Children are the next generation. They're the next generation of leaders. They're little disciples. They're little people. Children grow up into teenagers, and teenagers grow up into young adults, and those young adults take responsibility, whether it's in church or in society. So children must have a very special place in the church to be taught, to be nurtured, to be brought forward.
The future of Sunday school, it seems to be going on the way it is as a ministry to the church families. The churches that have big congregations, they'll have big Sunday schools, and for the churches who have small congregations or predominantly very elderly congregations, they will have a small Sunday school or perhaps none at all.